We're Debbie and Larry Jackman. We own Mosaics Glass Creations and Jen's Gems.
Larry had been developing difficulties with his health, specifically with his hands. He took this as an opportunity to retire and open an art store in the Pittsburgh public market. They made glass mosaics and sold jewelry.
I started the business with my daughter Jen of Jen's Gems. My daughter Jen was very young. She was probably in elementary school. She used to come home every day and regularly she'd be asking for toothbrushes. So at first I thought I was the perfect mother. My daughter loved to brush her teeth. I thought this is just great, and I bought her toothbrush after toothbrush after toothbrush. Finally, I realized, wait a minute, you're going through way too many toothbrushes. So I asked her, what are you doing with all these toothbrushes? She always wanted cute ones, Looney Tunes and things like that. Well, it turned out what she was doing was taking the toothbrushes, popping them in water, bending them, pulling out the bristles, and making little bracelets out of them. Well, her friends all loved them so much that one after another wanted one. So I went from being the perfect mother whose daughter was brushing her teeth all the time to being the mother who, are you really old enough to be boiling water by yourself without me knowing it? So I realized that she had a knack for creating, and when she was 15, we started selling her items.
They worked at this business together as a family making art. Then one day, they found out Larry had ALS. ALS stands for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, meaning no muscle support.
ALS is also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. It's a very, very tough disease. The biggest problem with it is that at this time there is no cure, and they really don't know how people get it. There's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of question. A lot of people took the Ice Bucket Challenge last year, raised a lot of money. It's a very hard disease to diagnose. And figuring out what he even had, there was a long road that we took to get there.
In the years before, they had noticed some symptoms of ALS.
Maybe 7 years ago, I walked upstairs and I fall down, when I got to the top. And that's very characteristic of the disease.
The other thing that he noticed early on was his hands were getting weaker. He would have trouble opening up a door. He thought that he had arthritis. He would get little squishy balls and try to use the squishy balls to strengthen the hands. And we go to the doctors. We went to many, many doctors before they were able to diagnose ALS.
It is a neurodegenerative disease that affects nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord, affecting muscle control. The longer you have it, the less control you have over your own muscles.
The video that we're doing, we started a year ago, and at that time, Larry was still walking. Now he's mostly in a wheelchair. He's able to still walk, from the bed to the bathroom, things like that. But it's a degenerative disease, and it breaks down. Muscle weakness. Which
actually, what happens is your nerves don't work, and they don't fire your muscle. So that's what causes the problem. Your hands get weak, and then your arms get weak, and then your breathing is very labored. So that's primarily what I deal with a lot. And high humidity is very hard on you. Well, for example, a year ago I could walk. Now I have to use a wheelchair. So it's very similar to what happened to Stephen Hawkins too.
So when I think about his hands and how things have changed, and in many ways we're still lucky that we are even able to do the mosaics together, because as you can see, his hands, they don't, he can't grip me. He can't grip the microphone. If you've noticed, I've held the microphone up to him. In fact, do you want to show what it would happen if you were to try to grip it with two hands?
It's hard.
So that's how, but the nice thing is he is still able to do things. So he is able to grip a cup and drink, which is nice. He's still able to do the mosaics. It's harder for him. It's definitely gotten harder.
My neck and back, because the muscles aren't as strong. So.
And even just the physical picking up the pieces, it's not an easy thing to do. Sometimes I'll even cut the pieces, lay them out for him, and then he'll still have to put the glue down and then pick them up and do it.
Yeah. It's very labor intensive, because it's hard to manipulate the glass.
This is a Tree of Life in which I raffled to promote funding for the ALS Society. And what's interesting about this is this side is giving and this side is receiving. And most of my life I've been giving, and I had to make this transformation due to my illness into receiving and asking for help, which was not easy for me. But what I found is people are very kind, and actually I have a much better opinion of people now as a result of the kindness that they've shown me.
A man behind me, I was having trouble putting the groceries on the conveyor belt. So a man behind me saw this and he did it for me. And he said he was a Catholic priest. So he asked what was wrong with me, and I explained. And then he did a prayer right in the line there, which was very beautiful, actually.
When Larry first had difficulty doing things, things would just kind of come up slowly. For example, he'd be in the grocery store and he'd have trouble taking his credit card out of the wallet. Somebody would help him do that. He'd have trouble swiping the credit card. Somebody would help him do that. Somebody else saw him struggling opening a door. They'd help him do that. Even now, we'll walk into, as I said, we go to LA Fitness on a regularly. As soon as we walk in,
and put me on the bicycle.
people will see us, they'll open doors for us. People just come out of the woodworks trying to see what we need and helping.
What I like best about Pittsburgh is the people are very helpful. It's very impressive.
When we're talking about help that we've received, one of the things that we really should mention is how much our family has been there for us. We both have 2 daughters, and they have just stepped up to the plate and completely been there for us. As parents, you give to your children, and that's what you expect to do. With ALS, we have had to learn to receive help from our children. And what's been very nice is, in their case, all of our children have really stepped up to the plate and really have helped us out. But it's very interesting. I'm 55. Larry, you're 60? 60. And certainly at that age, you don't expect to be taking help from your children the way that we have. And all 4 of our daughters have just really stepped up and helped us. They made sure that before we moved back here, when we left for Florida,
all set.
Yeah, when we left for Florida, Larry was not in the wheelchair, and so they had to completely rearrange the house, make sure that there were aisles big enough,
Wheelchair
and rearrange
accessible.
it. Yeah, so it's been, we've really appreciated the love and the help and the support that we've gotten from our family.
Yeah. It's been very important to.
Larry donated his cells to research in hopes of helping lead to a cure for ALS.
My hope is that they come up with some cures other than rat poisoning that they could give me.
Certainly, we would love to see them come up with a cure for ALS. Love to see it happen in Larry's lifetime. Certainly.
I like it to help other people, who suffer from the same thing.
Yeah. Realistically, when we, as
It takes a long time, actually.
Yeah, it takes a long time to cure disease, so there is a very good chance when we do something like go to Boston and he donates his skin cells and he donates his blood. Realistically, you're probably doing the research for other people. There's always that, I always hope that there's somebody somewhere has that aha moment where they're looking at their slides or they're looking at the computer and they say, aha, I see something here. And maybe it's looking at Larry's cells, maybe it's somebody else's, but boy, if I had a wish, it sure would be that.
On February 23rd, 2016, Larry passed away due to his disease. But he will be remembered through his art and the lessons that the disease taught him and Debbie.
You know, when we're having difficult times, if we focus instead of on ourselves, but how can we help others? What can we do for others? And maybe if somebody is in that space where they're having a tough day or things are difficult, and instead of focusing in on themselves, they look outside of themselves and say, how can we help others? What can we do, not to make our lives better, but to make other people's lives better? And so often we find that when we are helping others, we do feel better about ourselves.
I was used to giving, and I had to accept help because that's the nature of the disease. So I eventually did it, and what I found is I have a lot more hope in people now.
The nice thing is we're actually able to really focus on things that we enjoy. A lot of times people will look at us and, you know, when we mention ALS, the first response is, oh, I'm very sorry. And look, I wouldn't want somebody else to have ALS. It's not a diagnosis. Yeah, well, it's not a diagnosis I would want for anybody, certainly not for us, certainly not for Larry. But we don't focus our energies on what he can't do and what we can't do. We're very fortunate in that he's not working and I'm not working, other than the work that we do on the mosaics and that type of thing. And we spend time together. We enjoy each other's company. We get up in the morning. We will maybe work on mosaics for a couple hours. Maybe we'll go to the gym. He's still able to use a bike. We'll go to the gym for a little while. I'll ride on a bike next to him. We just enjoy each other's company. We explore, we see things, we do things, and we really just enjoy our time together. And nobody knows how long they have on this earth. You know, every one of us, there's going to come a point where every one of us is going to die. Nobody knows. So it really puts it in the forefront that you need to enjoy what you do and spend life doing things, making the world a better place.
Yeah, that you enjoy each other's company is especially important.
So we feel fortunate.
Debbie and her daughters have continued their business creating and selling art. They have moved to a new location and renamed the store Songbird Artistry in honor of Larry, as birds have always been an important symbol in his art.